up, everybody? It's me, Troy, and I'm back again with another video. Of course, a chop it up video. And I want to go ahead and say thanks to everybody who recently commented, liked, and subscribed. Thank you guys so much for being here and vibing with me. I know it's a lot to take in, but you know, I'm glad you're here. So today I'm going to be talking about Sue Grafton's S is for Silence. This is book number 19 in Grafton's Kinsey Millhone Alphabet Private Eye Whodunit Murder Mystery Series. So many tags, you know what I mean? I really wish I could just keep it simple. But anyway, to just talk a little bit about the setup here, we should go ahead and take note that this is the book where Sue Grafton started to play with multiple points of view, as well as jumping back and forth in time. Previous to this book, all the books were told exclusively through Sue Grafton's main protagonist of the series, which is of course Kinsey Millhone. But before I get into that, I should go ahead and share with you guys what this book is about, because with any private eye book, there, specifically a Kinsey Millhone book, there's always someone who walks into Kinsey's office or meets her at a bar to retain her to do a specific job. So to keep it simple, I'm just going to read the back here. 34 years ago, Violet Sullivan put on her polka dot sundress. Girl, she beaded her face, freshened her lipstick, and left for the 4th of July fireworks. She was never seen again. Now her daughter wants to find out what happened, and she wants Kinsey's help. Anyway, Kinsey is retained by a woman named Daisy. Now, Daisy, of course, is Violet Sullivan's daughter. Back in the 4th of July of 1953, Violet Sullivan, you know, she walked out of her house. She took her Pomeranian puppy and her money and all this stuff and just walked out. Daisy, of course, suffered, you know, with the disappearance of her mother throughout her years. You know, it affected her so much that she started developing these, like, loose and random relationships with men. And, of course, she doesn't have a great relationship with her father, because truth be told, her father and her mother were in an abusive relationship. So of course Daisy is not very fond of her father, and you know, their relationship is very much strained over the years. But at the end of the day, Daisy is seeking some solace in the fact that she lost her mother, especially in regards to why her mother abandoned her, you know, considering the fact that she was just a child. You know, was it enough for her, you know, to abandon the household completely because of this abusive relationship? Or just, you know, why didn't she hold on to Daisy or take her with her? Daisy needs to understand these things because it's been affecting her adult life. So with about $1,500, I think, is it 15 or something a lot of that nature, she retains Kinsey to find out what happened to her mother, you know, within the span of 4 or 5 days. So that's kind of the bracket and the budget that she gives Kinsey. And what Kinsey does, in all Kinsey fashion, girl, she packs up a bag. You know, she keeps things in her trunks like overnight knapsacks and clipboards and coveralls, you know, in case she has to like go undercover, sort of, so to speak. Kinsey packs everything she needs to take on this investigation, although she has hesitations. But let's just go ahead and make this clear that, you know, girl, I wouldn't judge. You can do whatever the hell you want to as long as it ain't affecting me. But Violet, let's just go ahead and make it clear that Violet Sullivan was the woman around town, okay, girl? She was jipping men out of money. She was sleeping with various women's husbands, and she was getting into it with various women as well. So, you know, there's a number of reasons as to why someone, which is very much telling in this book, why someone wanted to either kidnap her or run away with her or murder her. But at the end of the day, all Kinsey really needs is what's up in here, as well as a packet of index cards, because you know she's famously known for index cards. But that's all she needs as she goes into Daisy's old neighborhood where Daisy grew up and where Violet Sullivan disappeared, and she starts to interview various people, various neighbors, various citizens of this particular town who may or may not, or has the possibility of having some sort of relationship with Violet that could have in turn led to her disappearance or her murder. So that is the setup of this book. And structurally, what Grafton does, as I said, she gives you the ongoing investigation of Kinsey Millhone, as well as jumping back into 1953 through looking through the third person perspectives of each of these individuals that Kinsey, you know, goes about subsequently investigating, interrogating, and asking questions related to Violet's murder or her disappearance, keeping that clear. And with that said, I have got to say, and this is what I left the book feeling, this book was a prime, and I'm not even saying this because I love Grafton, but it really was a great model example of how to develop and work characters inside of a crime fiction novel. Clearly, I say that because of this. When you're writing a crime fiction novel, you know, there's always that catalyst of a murder that takes place, and you're gonna need at least 4 or I always suggest at least 4 suspects who have a hand in that murder, or the potential of having a hand in that murder, for the protagonist to kind of work and, you know, reverse engineering their methods and their crimes and that sort of thing. So with that kept in mind of how I feel like this was a book that gave a great example, a great model of how to write character in a crime fiction novel, let's just go ahead and keep it down to the bare bones here. Like, I want to try to make this quick by saying that, you know, with the structure that Grafton gives, you know, you do as a reader, you get a clear, precise, piercing look into each of the suspects that Kinsey is investigating. So when you have a crime fiction novel, you have to have, the suspects have to have a secret, you know, starting with a secret related to the victim of whatever sort. They have to have a motive, the potential, the questioning of what, you know, what would be the reason that they would have committed the crime or the kidnapping. They have to have a really good lie for the investigator to sniff through and to uncover. And then most of all, they have to have their truth. So Miss Grafton gave us at least a set of, gosh, I mean, it could have been maybe 5 suspects and probably more. With those jumps back into the past, you know, you see everything in motion. You see Violet relationship with the car dealership man who is a potential suspect. You know, they had a relationship where, you know, she was serving him to get a car. Then you see Violet's relationship with the businessman who needs money to to upgrade his business, and Violet of course has money. Then you see their interaction, and then you see Violet Sullivan getting into it with different housewives, you know. So everybody has a different motive for killing or kidnapping or storing Miss Violet Sullivan away. Everybody has a different motive, everybody has a different lie, everybody has a different secret. And then what Grafton allows you to do when you revert back to the chapters featuring Kinsey's on book 1 investigation, you as the reader, you are privy to all of this information, and you're watching these suspects do some of the key methods that you can do in a mystery. There's the contradicting suspect, the one who says one thing and of course does another. Then there's the stonewalling suspect, the one who, girl, she knows something, you don't know whether it's about the case or whether she's hiding something personal as it relates to the victim, but she's stonewalling, she's not giving Kinsey or you, the reader, anything. And then there is like the one that, the character, the suspect who has the obvious motive, who sometimes you don't quite know whether that obvious motive is the truth or where it's just a way to lead you off the path. And that is kind of where I feel like the suspense came in this book. You know, me as a reader, like I said, I was privy to all this information about each of the various suspects that Kinsey didn't even have, and I had to watch Kinsey uncover it. But you know, the suspense came watching her get through the lies, get through the contradicting terms, get through the falsifying of evidence, get through the characters with the obvious motives that she has to flesh out to find the truth. And that was what kept me reading. That's what kept me going from page to page, because you know, there's this chapter where Kinsey is going up to approach this particular suspect who apparently is given a lie, and then there's that crystal clear narrative that jump back to 1953, where me as a reader, I see exactly what that suspect was hiding from Kinsey. And just a little side thought, and trust me guys, I am not comparing Sue Grafton to P.D. James. I think they're both amazing. Girl, we're not going, that's not what I do, okay? I'll do the comparisons and that sort of nature. You read them totally different. But what I'm trying to point out is that P.D. James is known for having being very strict with her plotting. Like this lady, rip P.D. James, rest in peace, girl. This lady, she has a timeline. Like from 8 o'clock, this character is doing this. 9 o'clock, this character is doing this. 10 o'clock, this character, the victim, is being murdered. This. 11 o'clock, this character is doing this. That's from my understanding. That's how P.D. James plots her books. And then of course, you know, she gives the narrative and all that stuff. But what I'm getting at is that it takes so much structure to tell a crime fiction novel. Like you have to keep track of where your victim is, where, or at this time, where your protagonist is, where each of the suspects are. And that, with that being said, you know, as it relates P.D. James's form of plotting to how Sue Grafton gives us a full access view into each of her suspects in Essence for Silence, is that you don't get that information, the background, the real exclusive background of each of the suspects within one of these books. Traditionally speaking, I mean, you get pieces of them as the investigator uncovers it, and you go along in the plotting and uncovering of the investigator, but you don't get that full clear scope of what makes these characters tick, why they do what they do, what was their relationship with the victim, and why they have the potential of, you know, committing whatever crime that is given. And that information is generally, like I said, is exclusively given to the author. The author has access to all of that information, and us, the reader, we normally don't. And that's why I really enjoyed S's for Silence, because Grafton gave us full access to each of her suspects, and like I said, their lies, their truth, their secrets, and their motives, like full access. But even at the same time, each of those individual narratives outside of Kinsey's perspective were all interesting, okay? They were all, she was all telling individual stories that I found to be great. But let me tell you something, even though I love Grafton, and girl, I would talk about her with so much honor as if I was writing for her. Grafton, you got a job for me, girl? Like, what time is it, girl? Let me come work for you so I can read some of your books ahead of publication. But even though I love Miss Grafton, let me tell you something, you know, I keep it real. I try to keep it real. I did have a problem with S's for Silence, which took it from a 5-star to a 4-star. Let me tell you something, and this is maybe a personal pet peeve or aggravation of mine. When you tell one of these stories and it comes down to the final confrontation, writers, listen to me when I say this, you have got to give the criminal a voice. You have got to give the criminal a chance to speak for themselves at the end of the book. You have got to. Now, S's for Silence had a great action set up, you know, toward the end, toward the conclusion. But Miss Grafton, you did not give the criminal a chance to speak for himself, and I do not like that. You can't do that. That's cheating to me. The criminal has to, even before you kill him, throw him in a ditch or whatever, throw him in a jailhouse or whatever, the criminal, and I reiterate this, the criminal in these crime fiction books, they have to have the opportunity to tell their side of the story. Grafton did not do that here. I think she relied too much on the narratives that she was given of each of the characters in the past for us as the reader to, you know, make sense of why he did it and all that sort of, and that things of that nature. But let me tell you something, that may be clear, and that's fine, but at the end of the day, you have got to spell it out. You have got to give the criminal a chance to speak up and to tell their side of the story. That's just a personal pet peeve of mine. I don't care how nobody feels. That's just how I feel. Like, that took this 5-star down to 4. Sorry, I was upset by that, okay? But you know what? Love this book. I thought it was really great. It is very, very, very much hard-boiled. What I mean by hard-boiled is that the effects of the investigation and the procedural aspects is very much trickling along. You know, don't expect all these fancy action sequence, you know, to pick up some of the pace. None of that. Not really. I mean, there was one, and I will say that Grafton could have used another, but at the same time, she was working with that different form of narrative telling that, you know, it kind of wasn't needed in a slight way. But you know what, I think that's it. I'm just rambling at this point. Loved S's for Silence. Love Sue Grafton. Sue Grafton, call me, girl.